Welcome to the Friday edition of Anglican Unscripted. This is episode 181, and this episode is brought to you by Kleenex, Flonase, Zyrtec, all the good allergy pills, and by the letter P for pollen. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger. And today's May 22nd, 2015. Quick one.
Yes, we will. Okay. 3, 2,
15 minutes.
1. All right. As I indicated in the start of the show, I'm suffering from pollen. That's why we didn't have a Monday show or a Wednesday show. The Litchfield County pollen count went very high, and it wiped me completely out. I sounded mafioso for a little while, that deep, chesty voice, and it just wasn't worth taping for. So, George, I'm going to do a quick show. We got some fun topics. But before we get there, we have to do some apologies or updates or corrections to previous stories. And it's ironic because it's not George's fault because George wasn't on the previous episode. That was with Peter and David Old where I made a little mistake. I had indicated that Bishop Brewer supported the lifestyle of the two gay gentlemen who were baptizing their child in the statement that they made. I was misquoting that statement. I apologize for it. It says that Bishop Brewer agrees to baptize and supports baptizing a child with two fathers, and I misquoted that to say he supported the lifestyle. I was wrong, and I do apologize for that, so we're doing this correction. George also has a correction.
Yes, last week we talked about the AMIA being a zombie. And of course we were mistaken in saying that. A zombie, Chuck Murphy's not dead. To be a zombie, he has to be dead and then come alive. So he's not the living dead. So we were improper use of terms there, which we apologize for.
My apology was serious, George. It's just getting into some more trouble. Let's move on to some news here. George really has no life. And I learned that this week when he said, Kevin, you got to hear the story about what came out of the government's data dump on Osama bin Laden. And I said, yeah, he's obviously he had Hillary Clinton's new email address. They were doing some correspondence. He was planning the next big attack on America. He liked to watch football out of England. He says, no, he was writing and had documents about bishops in England. I said, George, where do you have the time to go through government data dumps on a Friday evening to find out that there's English bishops and Christian documents in Osama bin Laden's den from 5 years ago? Well, that's George for you.
No, Kevin, it's not just me. See, we here in Florida, we have a large number of older people who have nothing with time on their hands. So we have a staff of about 350 people who scour the internet hour by hour, minute by minute, looking for anything that's entirely relevant to our broadcasting network.
Well, and we found it. So you found these documents. Why, and we've been playing this back and forth, why does Osama bin Laden, his only Christian document, wasn't a Bible, it wasn't the Windsor Report, it wasn't the 39 Articles, it was a profile of the bishops of England. And I'm scratching my head. George, what do you got?
Well, let me give you the actual facts,
okay.
And then we can sort of fill in the dots as we gaps between the dots as we see them. On May 20th, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence released documents which it had declassified, that had been seized in the raid on Osama bin Laden's hideout in Pakistan. That's when the Navy SEALs went in and shot up the place. They took a whole treasure trove of documents, electronic files, recordings, and this is the first batch that has been declassified. There are several hundred documents, and some of them are letters between various operatives and bin Laden. Some of these are Muslim theological works, and in a subsection entitled Religious Documents, and I'm looking at it right now. There's a Quran they found in Osama bin Laden's office,
Cool.
Several commentaries on the Quran, and the hadith, the sayings of the prophets.
Sure. Yeah.
And when in the other parts of the documents that are released, you can click on the document itself and you'll see a PDF file showing the original and the translation in English. Well, one document released by the CIA that was found in Osama bin Laden's bedside table drawer was entitled Profiles of the Bishops of the Church in England.
Well,
now, you couldn't click through to see that, though.
No.
So we only know it by its title.
Sure.
And we have been in contact with the press office at the Director of National Intelligence, and they said that they will pass our request on to the appropriate analysts and get back to us.
Mm-hmm.
But the only Christian document there was a list of the bishops of the Church of England. Not a list, profiles.
Profiles, not a list. Yeah,
profiles.
And, you know, the who they are, what they do, what they believe, and stuff like that. Now, we knew long ago that Osama bin Laden, or Al Qaeda, not just Osama, wanted to kill the Queen of England, and it's my understanding he didn't want to kill just the leader of the country. He wanted to kill the leader of a state religion country. Where the state, it's a religious country.
So here's sort of the high flyer stuff that you don't read in the World Weekly News, or the New York Times or other sort of faux journalistic outputs. Several years ago, it was reported that Queen Elizabeth wasn't on Al Qaeda's hit list. Well, if you actually read the documents that described why, most reporters didn't get past the headlines and wrote, "She's the head of Britain, head of figure of state." Great, just like when the IRA killed Lord Louis Mountbatten in Northern Ireland, it was to strike at the figure of British society. Well, Al Qaeda thought that was a great idea, but also the Queen is the protector of the Church of England, and they see her as a religious figure.
Right, church state.
Now, amongst all of Al Qaeda's enemies in the West, the only country where the Church and the state, there's no division, is the Church of England. In Al Qaeda's mind, in Osama bin Laden's mind, if you read some of these documents, he understands that's the right way to go. So I know this sounds kooky, but Osama bin Laden thinks that the Church of England is doing it right. And it's worth having opposition research on. Now, I know you're going to say only Osama bin Laden would think that the only Christian church in the world that's doing it right is the Church of England. But, man, this is fascinating on so many different levels.
I know. Well, it's fascinating because, so he thinks that the enemy is the Church of England because they're Christian. And you and I have done lots of stories, most recently the GAFCON stories and the AMIE stories in England, stuff like that. Knowing that the Church of England is falling apart, knowing that England itself is kind of falling apart. So when we read this many years on, we're like, he had it wrong. But then, why didn't he have any research papers on any Episcopal bishops?
Well, I'm sure Catherine Jefferts Schori is just having a snit fit right now. She is our precious passive-aggressive presiding bishop is holding her mitre in her hands and walking around in angst that she is not worthy of being an enemy of Osama bin Laden's. Now, the interesting thing I find, the thing that I find interesting is that there are bishops of the Church of England who have been targets of Al Qaeda and Islamic terrorism.
Yep.
Michael Nasir Ali. Nasir Ali was forced to leave Pakistan in the 1970s because of the threat of militant Islam. Michael Nasir Ali has been a voice for Christians in England and in the developing world. He leads one of the institutions that is trying to support persecuted Christians. If you have a theological, political worldview, and if you see Christianity as the enemy, and if you're doing real opposition research, then Michael Nasir Ali should figure very prominently. Well, I mean, or it could be that Osama bin Laden wanted to know if he could grow a beard like Rowan Williams.
And
it was just pure jealousy. We don't know.
Just last year, we had this service where they had a Muslim service in a Christian church in England. So was this? You can't say that the church that Osama bin Laden feared is there today.
It is and it isn't.
Yeah.
Yes, the Southwark fiasco. where the church across from Victoria Station. I can see it. I can picture it. I forget its name. Okay, that guy.
Yeah.
That guy. He invited liberal Muslims to come in and celebrate Friday prayers. And, oh, by the way, we'll cover up all the Christian iconography just to be good and kind and welcoming. That sort of Christianity poses no threat whatsoever to Islam because it's meaningless. It's adherent. Who would ever die or be martyred for a Christian faith like that?
Sure.
The Christian faith that hundreds of Pakistani Christians and tens of thousands of Christians in the Sudan and thousands more in Nigeria and Kenya, and all these places are dying for is not the weak, washed-out Christianity epitomized by the decaying left in England. But at the same time, there are English Christians. And whether or not this is deserved, the Archbishop of Canterbury is seen as a person of international consequence. He may not think so. George Carey certainly thought he was.
Sure.
Rowan Williams sort of did. Justin Welby, I don't know what he thinks.
We'll have to find out sometime. Now, this is Memorial Day weekend, and George and I get a chance to thank our veterans. And there's many veterans in my family. My uncle served in a time of war. My great uncle did, and but we never lost to Colson in battle. But I do want to thank those who've served this country. I want to thank those who've died for this country. George and I, live in a country where we had the freedom to have this type of show on the internet because of the people who thought the flag was something worth dying for and the Constitution was something worth protecting. George, you have family also?
Yes, and in fact, I even was in NROTC.
Well, no.
And I washed out of the Marines told me I should join the Navy. The Navy told me I should join the church.
There's your hint.
But my father was in the Pennsylvania National Guard. In 1968, he was called up to keep Philadelphia safe for democracy when all the riots broke out.
Sure.
So we have a storied, checkered past in the military.
Yes. So George and I both want to thank those who have died for our freedom. We understand the sacrifice. We thank the families. We thank our military. That's it for today's show. We'll catch you next time. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger. And you've been watching episode 181 of Anglican Unscripted.
Oh, we did it. Without it. Mind you finish it. 3, 2, stop that. 3, 2, 1. Okay, it's Friday. Obviously, there's a couple missing episodes, Monday and Wednesday. Where was Kevin and George? Kevin was suffering from pollen. Pollen and Kevin don't get it well. Well, what are you coughing for? There's no
Sympathy.
Sympathy. Pollen here, the tree pollen in Litchfield County, which is all trees. The pollen count went from mild to very high overnight, and I was out. There's just, you can still hear it in my voice. I was more like this, though. I had that mafiosis going on. So I was pretty bad, and I drugged myself up. And I mean drugs, by the way. I took all these different